Arsenal 4, Molde 1, and as you can hear, the fireworks are going off, the celebrations are going down tonight. I'm just messing with you, Guy Fawkes tonight, but yeah. I do apologise in advance because it might be a bit difficult trying to hear me with all this going on. But in terms of today's performance, I wasn't too inspired by the team lineup, if I'm honest with you. I just thought having not including Emil Smith-Rowe or Balogun just didn't make any sense to me, especially when Balogun came on and he had a decent cameo in that last 20 minutes. I'm so sorry, people. I'm so sorry. I can't hear myself. Alright. Thank you. So yeah, and with regards to Emil Smith-Rowe, you can't really sort of say it's injury related because as far as I'm aware and what's been published by the club's website, he's fit and he's actively involved in first team training. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I think, personally speaking, it's just a lack of trust. Mikel Arteta just has this trust issues. And you constantly sort of see it with not including Pepe, who I thought today played great. And to continue on with the safe option of going with Nketiah rather than opting to go for a young, promising talent who could potentially be better than Eddie Nketiah. And I reckon he could. I mean, after all, let's really look at Eddie's performance tonight. He just didn't really do anything. He just looked frustrated. One thing I have realised about Eddie Nketiah, he doesn't really come across like he's a team player. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I just sort of jump into conclusions here. But for example, when our second goal went in and it was an own goal, he looked really frustrated that he didn't score, as if he wanted to fucking kill the defender that tapped it in. And that wasn't the only time. I remember earlier on in the season when we played Leicester City in the League Cup. And Pepe went on that run, and then Pepe managed to get an assist for an own goal that Leicester conceded. And even though we scored, he looked frustrated, as if to say, "Why didn't you give me the ball?" It's, mate, we scored. Just, get on with it. There will be plenty of opportunities. If you're good enough, you'll get them. And for me, if you're frustrated, that tells me, yes, I love the hunger and I like it, but it tells me that you have no confidence in yourself to believe that you'll go on and to score later on in the game. And that's just my frustration. For me, he's 21 years of age. When we kind of look at the top talent across the continent, he's just not even considered. I guarantee you go to Spain and say Eddie Nketiah, no one will know who he is. But you come here, you say Erling Haaland, we all know who he is, and he's younger. That's just my point. Yes, I know Haaland is an exceptional talent, but that's just, one of many. Look at Tariq Lamptey at Brighton. He's 20 years old, I believe. And he's doing bits at Brighton, week in, week out. Don't tell me Eddie's going to make it. I don't believe it. And I'm willing to put money on it. You know what? If he proves me wrong, I'll be the first to put my hands and say, fair play. But I don't think so. And moving on to sort of some of the top performers today, I thought Ceballos turned it on in the second half, looked much better, came out with a ball. I thought Pepe, he looked like a man who's got no confidence whatsoever, but can you blame him? For months now, we were playing a system which handicapped anyone who played on the right hand side, and it just catered towards the left. And then you had a high towards last season and made a great performance in the FA Cup final, and then you get dropped for the opening game against Fulham this season. And then you score against Dundalk, and now your confidence is back, and then you get subbed off, thinking perhaps maybe it's because I might play at a weekend against Manchester United, only to realise, no, we're saving you for whatever reason for next week's game. And then it's like today, I'm glad he got the full 90 minutes. And I thought Willian, who was on the other side, who had a decent game as well. But let's look at stats here. Pepe got a goal and 2 assists. Willian didn't get anything, did he? So, but I know come on a weekend, we'll see Willian in the starting lineup and Pepe won't get in. And it must be frustrating for him. And I can't really say that I understand from Pepe's perspective. But I just feel as if Mikel Arteta's man management is pretty poor in some circumstances. However, I kind of maybe perhaps understand why he outfielded a stronger team than perhaps usually you would see Arsene Wenger or the likes of Unai Emery would put out for the group stages in the Europa League. I feel as if he just doesn't have that trust with the players, and maybe that might develop over time in his managerial career. And maybe now he's just, you know, he feels as if he needs to establish a name for himself, and he hasn't got that time to waste. So therefore, why not just go with the entrusted players? And if that's the case, then why include Kolasinac and Mustafi, who A, are not going to be long term, and B, who are constantly error prone? That's just some of the things I have to sort of say about the game. In terms of the opposition, they didn't look too threatening. Yes, they were frustrating, and they looked pretty fast at the back. There were a few times in terms of where Pepe and Willian had a one-on-one go at their defensive line, and they managed to sort of keep up with him. That's one thing I've noticed. In terms of going forward, they really didn't hurt us at all. Don't think Bernd Leno had much to do, but he was really at fault for that first goal. Yes, the ball bounced, but it was his positioning, and that I don't blame him for the kick because he just he had to sort of go long. There weren't any options in terms of passing out from the back, but it was just his position was poor, and I just felt as if he was that bit taller, or if he planned and predicted where the ball was going to go, he could have made a save. Anyways, I'm going to go into my player ratings. So in terms of formation, I believe we deployed some sort of 4-4-2 where Willock had more of a freedom in a free role up there with Eddie Nketiah just ahead of him. So Bernd Leno, again, what I mentioned about entrusting players, Runnison didn't put a foot wrong against Dundalk, and for whatever reason doesn't get a game in against Molde. And for me, I always say continue to play players until they make that mistake and then take them off. Don't take a player off if they've performed decent or if they haven't made a mistake. In Runnison's case, now look, he's not playing. I hope, as I mentioned, this is something in terms of his managerial career he improves in the long run. But moving on to Leno, briefly spoke on the error, I believe, in terms of conceding the first goal. Positioning was poor. Other than that, didn't have much to do in terms of the game. There was a decent punch out from earlier on in the match. I'm sorry again. Yeah, but Leno, standard 6 for me. Moving on to the right back, Maitland-Niles. See, this is where you should have come in today and cemented that position. I've always spoke highly of you, and I can't really sort of back you today. You've really let yourself down. You are one of the worst players today, and I can't really support you on that, Maitland-Niles. And you don't have much of a case. And I'm probably conceding now why Mikel Arteta plays Bellerin ahead of you. Maitland-Niles gets a 4. Very, very, very poor considering we were playing Molde FK at home. Moving on to the other side, Kolasinac, who actually looked a lot better actually, to be fair, than Ainsley. But he didn't have much to do either. In terms of attacking, he looked a bit more promising, looked a bit powerful, but then he always does these clumsy mistakes for whatever reason. You know that little push Kolasinac does, and he always concedes a foul. It's silly. He needs to get that out of his game. And how old is he now? But he's just never going to learn. Can't wait to see him go. Hopefully next season we can see Bowler come in back from his loan and cement that left back spot. But Kolasinac on today's performance gets a 5 for me. Moving on to the centre backs, we had Mustafi and David Luiz. Luiz came back from injury, looked very sluggish. Even in terms of his passing, usually you sort of see him being that quarterback, centre back, where he just distributes the ball. But he wasn't really doing that in today's game, and in terms of some of the runs he was doing, just looked very slow and heavy. He gets a 5 for me, and that's only because in terms of conceding the first goal, he was the only defender that actually kept his position. And if you look at the other guys around him, they were all at 6s and 7s. So yeah, and moving on to his colleague Mustafi, don't like the guy. didn't have a really bad game in terms of the first goal. He wasn't he wasn't in his position. He was playing more as a right back for whatever reason. Yeah, Mustafi gets a standard. No, he gets a 4 actually. He gets a 4. And moving on to the midfield. So the two centre midfielders in Ceballos. I thought he had a quiet first half. Came more alive in the second half. And based on that performance, see, if I was to judge him on his first half performance, I'd give him about a 4. But based on his second half performance, he gets a 7. So, yeah, I'll give him a 6. Yeah, Ceballos gets a 6 for me. And moving on to his partner, Willock. What would I give Willock? Willock for me was probably our man of the match. But this is the thing about Willock for me. He looks good at times, and he looks like a world class beater at certain spots. But then it's that being decisive is just very poor. There was that one time towards the end of the game where he had an easy layup to Pepe, and Pepe had an easy shot in. But instead he opted to turn around a few defenders and try and make a bend, and it just didn't work out for him. But that's something in his game he needs to improve. He did get the 2 assists for the own goals. So yeah, Willock gets a 7 for me. Moving on to the right hand side, Pepe. You see, Pepe first half, you could tell this guy was low on confidence. He just didn't really look up to it. Even in himself, when he scored a goal, he didn't celebrate. And that's just a man who's just sort of fed up, just doesn't really have any belief in himself. And this is where I sort of say Mikel Arteta, in terms of man management, needs to improve. He needs to sort of put his arm around Pepe and, install that belief in him. But in terms of the game itself, he got 2 assists and a goal. Can't really fault him for that. He gets a 7 as well, but he's not my man of the match. As I mentioned, it will be Willock. And across to the other side, Willian, uninspiring at times. In terms of getting that counter attack, that was a beautiful. It started off with Pepe's beautiful ball across to Willian, and Willian made that decent drive going forward, and that's how we sort of broke and got the equaliser. But other than that, he had a few patches where he went behind the defence, but his crossing was just a bit poor, let him down a few times. So based on that performance, Willian gets a 5 for me. I apologise, I missed out Xhaka, who was in midfield, and not Willock. Xhaka, by the fact that I forgot that he even played, tells you everything about his performance. Didn't really do much, honestly speaking. I can't really see Xhaka really getting back into the team. I think that's now Mohamed El Nene's position. And the funny thing is, when Mohamed El Nene came on, you thought, wow, that's one of our first team players coming on. Who would have thought that? But yeah, so Xhaka, because he didn't do much wrong either, he gets a 5. Eddie Nketiah, he gets a 4. I've given my reason earlier in the video. I'm not going to go over it again. I just think, just cut our ties with him. Either loan him off, see what we can do over a season, or just sell him. He's just not going to make it if we continue to play him. Just can't see it. I'd rather invest more time in Martinelli and Balogun. But yeah, and in terms of substitutions, Cedric came on, very poor. I until today scratched my head to understand, why did we sign this guy to a 3-year contract? Why? Yeah, he's poor, gets a 3. Saka, he did create the assist for Pepe, and he looked a lot lively when he came on, injected life into the game. And Saka gets a 6 for me. No, he gets a 7 for me. Young Saka. How is it that we are putting all our trust in this 19-year-old to come in and change games for us? So yeah, based on that and a lot of pressure on his shoulders, standard 7. Kieran Tierney, he came on, didn't have much time to influence the game, standard 5. El Nene came in and he actually he was opening up their play with a few decent passes. He got that pre-assist pass that Pepe assisted for the final goal that Willock converted, and you could sort of see he's got a lot of confidence. he's got um he's got a little rhythm in his step now. So El Nene definitely going forward needs to partner Thomas Partey in that central midfield role. That's my player ratings overall. Yes, it's great that we won. That's 9 points. Hopefully, now that we've got 9 points, can Mikel Arteta maybe perhaps take his hands off the handbrake and experiment more with some of like the younger players in Cottrell, in Balogun, Smith Rowe? Will we see Ronison play more? Maybe, hopefully, if we do sort of go forward in the later stages, come January, perhaps could we see a William Saliba come in and partner Pablo Mari there? Who knows? That's my take on the game. If you could let me know what you think of my player ratings, let me know what your player ratings are. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you.